Ricci, tonight, it was a festival-filled weekend in Toronto.
These type of functions, these type of sessions, it can revitalize the area, bring people back out here.
Little Jamaica hosts its second annual Taste the Caribbean Festival. Why residents say it was a significant event for the neighborhood. Plus,
you need to actually start listening to the frontline healthcare workers who are a big part of the solution.
Healthcare workers call on the province to step up as staffing issues result in more emergency room closures. And
my husband called me and told me that a tree fell on the car.
A quick but severe thunderstorm causes significant damage in some parts of the GTA.
This is CBC Late Night News.
This weekend was one full of festivals in the city, including Taste the Caribbean. That was a celebration of food and music from all across the islands. And as Tyler Cheese reports, it was also meaningful for some of the local businesses that have been struggling over the past few years.
A
little rain won't stop visitors to Taste the Caribbean from having a good time.
Something like this kind of bring people out. You can look around, meet and greet, and so on, and enjoy the music and what's going on here.
But music is just the appetizer before the main course. The food is the real reason to show up. A wide range of options from all over the Caribbean.
We came here to support the people, show what we got here. We have our corn soup and pineapple smoothie and coconut water, refreshing everybody here out here.
Chefs from all over the Little Jamaica neighborhood came out for the festival.
So I'm just doing jerk chicken the original way, just keep it authentic. Back in Jamaica we use pimento wood, but you can't find that here. So I try to mimic the same flavor by using a sweet wood. So it could be like apple, it could be cherry, whatever to bring the flavor out, right? So I do mine, as you can see, on the wood there.
Organizer Sandy Folks says she started the festival to showcase all that the neighborhood has to offer.
My parents immigrated from Jamaica, and this is where they brought us down every weekend. So we were here, we know the community. As teenagers, we used to drive down here for lunch. So it's very important for me to come back and support and try to, keep their spirits up.
The area has been hit hard in recent years, with businesses closing due to the construction of the Eglinton Crosstown LRT and the pandemic.
Over 250 businesses, small businesses, were closed down previous to COVID. However, Jamaica people were very resilient. We're not gonna go down like that, you know what I mean? So we're here, we're not going nowhere, we need support.
He says events like this one are important for the area's economic recovery.
These type of functions, these type of sessions, it can revitalize the area, bring people back out here, let them know that we're open for business. The food out here is incredible.
Organizers say it's important for people to show support even when there isn't a festival happening by supporting local businesses and donating to community organizations. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
Multiple shootings overnight in the GTA have killed 2 people and injured another. In Brampton, Peel police say a fatal shooting happened on the property of a Catholic high school.
The incident took place on the grounds of St. Roch Secondary School, but there's no indication to believe that the incident is associated to the school.
The shooting happened around 9:15 p.m. in the area of Williams Parkway and James Potter Road. Officers say they found a man who had multiple gunshot wounds. The victim was transported to a trauma center but was pronounced dead a short time later. Police believe the shooting was targeted, but no suspect information is available. And one person is dead in Toronto's Greektown hours after a memorial was held marking the 5-year anniversary of a mass shooting in the same neighborhood. The shooting happened at Carlaw and Danforth around 3:30 in the morning. A man was pronounced dead in hospital. Police have not released any suspect information. And in North York, a large police presence after a man was shot late Saturday night around 11:30 near Jane and Shoreham. Toronto police say multiple gunshots were heard in the area. The victim was taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries. A suspect fled the scene in a black hatchback vehicle. The suspect is described as a black male under 25 years old wearing a black jacket. Staffing levels are affecting emergency departments across Ontario, and in some cases, it's actually forced them to shut down. leaving many, especially in rural communities, with long ways to go for emergency care. Patrick Swadden reports.
We're going to go home.
Susan Caskey is taking care of her granddaughters, while their mother takes an extra shift at a London hospital as an ER nurse.
She's supposed to be on holidays this week and has gone in to do some extra shifts because of the shortages. They're working themselves to the bone, the nurses.
And those shortages impacting the entire province, in some cases shutting down emergency departments completely. Over the weekend, 3 South Bruce Grey Health Centre ERs, Durham, Chesley and Walkerton, closed their doors to their community, saying they don't have enough staff to operate, as patients were diverted to Kitchener's St. Mary's or Grand River hospitals.
So our patients are waiting longer. Their lives are being put at risk because of this. We saw last summer an infant being resuscitated in a hallway. That can never happen.
Ontario Nurse Association President Aaron Aris saying it can take hours to drive to another ER, especially in rural communities, as at least 5 other hospital emergency departments shut down or curtailed services.
We are in this crisis because emergency departments have, just as I said before, been underfunded for the better part of a decade, certainly, but more so under the Ford government.
And that's drawn the ire of opposition leader Marit Stiles.
I'd like them to reverse their plan to privatize healthcare. This move to put profit ahead of patients is going to make things worse, not better.
She says the province needs a much greater infusion of funding for emergency rooms, while the Ministry of Health says they're expanding a program that backfills emergency department staff, and told CBC in a statement, earlier this year we launched Your Health, which includes our government's additional $44 million investment in 165 high-volume and smaller emergency departments across the province.
$44 million at this moment in 165 emergency rooms, that's a drop in a leaky bucket. They need to actually start listening to the frontline healthcare workers who are a big part of the solution.
But Stiles says the province needs more primary care staff like family doctors and nurse practitioners, which would take the strain off hospitals. Meanwhile, the Minister of Health says she will be making an announcement here in Kitchener tomorrow and will be taking questions from reporters. Details on that announcement are still to come. Patrick Swadden, CBC News, Kitchener.
A quick but severe storm hit Toronto this afternoon, leaving behind some damage.
I was actually in class when my husband called me and told me that a tree fell on the car, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then he explained to me that he's okay, so then I rushed and got an Uber to come here to see what's going on, because I knew that he didn't speak English.
Environment Canada had issued a severe thunderstorm warning for Toronto today, expecting strong winds and heavy rain. The warning ended just before 3:30 p.m. Sophia Kambalia joins us now from the Weather Network. And Sophia, that extreme weather hit more than just Toronto.
We'll show you a snapshot from radar of those storms that we saw earlier today. Lots of hail, lightning, torrential rain. Started early afternoon and went right into the evening. Really scattered in nature. It's why you saw that bright bluebird sky that quickly changed, fueled by that hot, humid, unstable air mass to produce all of those heavy downpours, lightning and hail that you saw today. If you like that, there's more to come for the next couple days. Monday afternoon, more of that hot, sticky, soupy air mass, high 20s, feeling like the low 30s. All the recipe ingredients are there, right? We talked about the heat and humidity. All you need is a trigger to really cause that pot to boil over on the stove, so to speak. And lake breeze will really provide that mixture of cold and warm throughout the next 24 and 36 hours. Scattered storms again across the province. Not everybody is going to see a storm, but there is a little bit of extra chance, especially if you're in northern and eastern Ontario, that if you do see a storm come through, it could have a little extra oomph and have more of that extra hail and wind and rain. Well, how about a stormy setup for the next 2 days, setting up for a sweltering setup for the latter half of this work week. Coming up in the long range, we'll talk about how we will experience multiple days this week feeling like the 40s, that to come in a few minutes.
Thanks, Sophia. The water is receding but remains high in the wake of Nova Scotia's devastating rain. 4 people remain missing. A vehicle in which 2 of them were last seen has been found submerged but with no one inside. The Premier predicts the cost will be in the hundreds of millions. roads were starting to open slowly today. 19 bridges are reported damaged. 6 others were completely destroyed. The province's request for federal disaster assistance has been approved. A state of emergency is in effect until at least August 5th. And that search continues for the 4 missing during that severe weather. RCMP is leading the efforts with about 40 people on the ground involved in the operations. Katie Nicholson has more.
A helicopter hovers low over a marshy waterway. On the ground, search and rescue teams also hard at work.
It's hot, it's very humid, ground is soft in areas, a lot of onshore roads, onshore footing on some of the areas.
Still, the search for the missing is relentless. Among them, 2 children. The truck they were last seen and found by dive teams, empty. Teams also scouring the water for a youth and an adult who were in another vehicle. All 4 believed to have been carried off in the torrent.
When you keep on thinking back to the four members of our community that we're still looking for, that's where our energy is right now.
The uncertainty felt deeply within the county.
It's a vast community, but it's a small community. Everybody talks to each other. Everybody's looking out for each other. Everybody's interacted with this family in one way or another.
In the sheer violence of Friday night's storm, many had close calls as floodwaters swallowed cars whole.
I jump from the top of the car, swim for a little, and go over the hill or to the road. It's something bigger than you, so you just try to find a way to escape.
It was scary. It was scary.
Peyton Dewell and her 80-year-old grandmother escaped their building by boat. Her mother, trapped by the storm, couldn't help.
I couldn't get down, and that was the most frustrating thing for me, was not being able to help them.
It's okay.
This family reunited after the storm, while the families of the missing are left to wait and wonder and hope. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Brooklyn, Nova Scotia.
The final suspect involved in a fatal group stabbing in Toronto in March has been arrested. Toronto police say a 28-year-old man was arrested by RCMP in BC on July 17th. He's charged with second-degree murder in connection to the death of Jeffrey Monroe. Monroe was stabbed during an altercation with 4 other men near Queen and Sherbourne on March 6th. He was taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries but died shortly after. Police had previously arrested and charged 3 other men in relation to this case. A candlelight vigil was held last night in honor of an international student killed in a violent carjacking earlier this month.
You come to Canada with a dream. You start your life. But these people stole a dream.
24-year-old Gurvinder Nath was an Indian international student at Loyalist College. Yesterday, community members remembering his life cut short by violence. Nath was working as a food delivery driver on July 9th when he was confronted by several unknown suspects who took his vehicle and left him at the side of the road with life-threatening injuries. He died 5 days later. Canadian Blood Services is encouraging people to give blood this summer. Kicking off a new campaign at Nathan Phillips Square, representatives say during this time of year, the demand for donations rises.
Every summer we see people stray from their routines a little bit, right? Over the winter time, people have a regular routine where they're donating blood frequently, right? So in the summertime, people start to go to their cottages, they go away, they do other things. So right now we're calling on other donors to come step up.
There are more than 80,000 open appointments for blood donation across the country. Canadian Blood Services also says 1,000 people are awaiting stem cell transplants. At the Women's World Cup in Australia, another player is out with what may be a torn knee ligament. One of several top soccer stars are missing the tournament altogether over the injury. Experts say women are more prone to these injuries than men. Lindsay Duncombe has more.
There's a brutal sisterhood in women's soccer, and Gabby Garton is part of it.
When you've gone through it, you just get this sort of anguished feeling in your chest where your heart just sinks because you know exactly what that entails, what that injury means.
Garton plays pro in Australia. She once represented Argentina in the World Cup. Back in 2014, she tore her ACL.
And as soon as it happened, you just know.
The anterior cruciate ligament keeps the knee stable when it rotates. Canada's Janine Becky injured hers in March.
It's not fair. I know it's not fair.
She's not playing in Australia. One of 18 athletes, many of them superstars, missing the tournament because of ACL injuries. That's pretty much an entire team.
The number of players out of the World Cup highlights a long-standing problem across women's sport. Research shows female athletes are between 2 and 8 times more likely to suffer ACL injuries compared to men. Figuring out why is complicated.
You see, it's a very small ligament that sits inside the joint
It's
here.
right in the middle.
It's right in the middle.
Melbourne's La Trobe University is one of the few places researching the issue.
We really don't know enough about women playing any sport. We definitely don't know enough about women playing football, and we definitely don't know about women playing elite football.
Researcher Kay Crosley says physical differences between men and women are just part of the puzzle.
We often focus too much on sort of the biology of the woman, so the shape of her pelvis and her hormones. There are so many other factors that can really influence a woman's risk of tearing her ACL.
Women, she says, get paid less, train less, travel more, and don't have enough time to work on injury prevention. Gender inequality is part of the problem, says this UBC researcher.
When you don't have that same level of investment in resources, in coaching, in training, basically what happens is the bottom kind of falls out of things and you start seeing problems. And one of the biggest cracks I think we see is the girls tearing their ACL.
Just take the pitch Garton plays on. Muddy, ripped up grass, easy to slip on.
The men that play at the same level that we're playing here, they play on basically stadiums.
Better conditions, she says, could mean fewer women will endure injury and miss out on playing the game. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Melbourne.
Lake Louise in Alberta has hosted a men's World Cup downhill ski race for decades, until now. It's been dropped due to funding issues. And as Aaron Collins tells us, with winter sport infrastructure crumbling, it's just another blow to athletes training here in Canada.
Canada's only men's World Cup ski race has reached the finish line. The loss of revenue, a big blow to developing the sport here.
Probably the biggest problem we have in sport today is a lack of resources and a lack of funding. It's about a $70 million problem right now.
Ken Reid, the defending champion, skied in control throughout.
The slopes of Lake Louise have been hosting races for decades. Without a World Cup event, one less reason for Canada's winter athletes to train here. Canada's aging winter sport infrastructure adding to the problem, no longer meeting international standards for training. These ski jumps used in the '88 Winter Olympics here in Calgary are now permanently closed. Many of Canada's elite athletes now heading overseas to find the facilities they need.
I am currently at home, air quotes. I'm in Bled, Slovenia.
Well, that's what drew Canada's first ever world champion in ski jumping overseas. Many of Canada's best looking outside the country to train, a trend that could reverse if Canada were to host another Winter Games.
I'm an Olympic athlete. I'm from a small sport that would hugely benefit from having an Olympics, but I know that I'm not the only one who would say this.
But not everyone believes renovating or building new Olympic venues here in Canada is a good idea.
You're going to end up with either significant costs that extend beyond what was initially promised, or you're going to end up with a bunch of useless facilities that sit around.
But that could make training more expensive for Canada's athletes. Unfair, according to some who say all Canadians benefit from their success.
The athlete representing their sport in their hometown, in their home country, with their people, watching them and supporting them is an important part of the experience, and that is important for Canadians too. So there is more than just money going on here.
Well, there will be a cost for Canadian athletes to continue to win Olympic gold. The question is, who should pay? Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
Heading next to a celebration of art and culture.
This is our biggest summer festival that's happening after 4 years. We were on a break because of COVID.
You're looking at Tirgan Festival. This year's theme, Rebirth, is a celebration of the resistance and persistence of the Iranian community. The 3-day event is wrapping today. Highlights included live music, dance performances, and programs for kids. More than 150 artists were in attendance. And here's a live look at the Toronto skyline. 21 degrees in the city right now and a bit cloudy. The humidex still making it feel like 26. And Sophia's back with our extended forecast, and it looks like we aren't quite done with that rain.
Talia, thanks for that. Yeah, still a chance for a few non-severe storms to pass by into the overnight period, and more of the same for the next 2 days. Hot, humid, sticky air mass fueling the chance for storms. Not everybody is going to see one, but there is the chance really right across the province for Monday and Tuesday, this upcoming work week, and a little bit of extra oomph for some of those storms in northern and eastern Ontario come Monday to have a bit of more punch packed with them. Let's unpack the temperatures now. Starting midweek, that's when the thermostat really gets turned up. Wednesday, high 20s, feeling like the high 30s. Now take a gander at Thursday, where you are feeling into the 40s in parts of southern Ontario and feeling into the high 30s up into the north. Now, Thursday overnight, your sleeping temperatures are where your daytime high should normally be. This will be an incredibly warm week, difficult for anybody that's susceptible to any heat-related illnesses. We will be repeating the signs of heat exhaustion many times for you this upcoming work week: headaches, dizziness, even fainting in extreme cases. Safety tips for this type of heat that we will be undergoing this upcoming work week: make sure that house is ventilated and cooled, and check on those most susceptible to heat-related illnesses. Toronto hasn't had a stretch of 30-degree weather like this year. Multiple days in the 30s, feeling like the 40s. I really want to show you Windsor's 7-day forecast, because look at this. Almost the entirety of this work week will be into the 30s, feeling like the high 30s or even the 40s. You're not escaping this heat either in the nation's capital region. Almost with certainty, I say that heat warnings will be issued for many localities around the province. Stay safe, stay hydrated, and stay cool. Talia.
Thanks for that, Sophia. And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks so much for watching. You can stay caught up on news anytime on our website, cbcnews.ca. Good night.